What are cryptocurrencies?
Hey, hey, hey.
What are NFTs?
A non-fungible token.
Time to buy Bitcoin.
Bitcoin just seems like a scam. What's up, Bitcoin?
Hello everyone, welcome back to On The Ledger. This is your host Mol Saeed and I'm back once again on your weekly rendezvous from Paris. I'm still live from Ledger Open, and if you don't know what that is, it means that you haven't listened to our previous episodes, so be sure to check them out. But in short, Ledger Open is a Web3 event happening at Gaîté Lyrique, right at the heart of Paris, with hundreds of speakers and attendees coming from all over the globe. And the good news is that we're taking you with us on this journey to meet some of the most inspiring guests and discuss the future of user experience in the world of crypto, DeFi, and NFTs. This time, I'm pleased to welcome Evgeny Yurtaev, co-founder of Zerion. Zerion is the easiest way to build and manage your entire DeFi portfolio from one place. Together, we'll be discussing DeFi accessibility, user experience, as well as Zerion's story and vision for the future of the space. So, Evgeny, welcome to On The Ledger. How's your Ledger Open going?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Ledger Open was actually a great experience to me. I can tell the story how I was getting here. It was like
I heard it was a long way here.
Right. Yeah, it was a long way, and it was very spontaneous in a way as well.
Okay.
I had to improvise midways, but I made it. So far it's been an amazing experience. I just had my talk.
Yeah.
Love it. I love all the people that came here. It's been a lot of insights that I got into how all the new companies are thinking about the space, and how Ledger specifically is thinking about the space. So that was very interesting.
Yeah, and thanks a lot for taking the time. Super excited to chat with you. So let's get going. On The Ledger Season 2, Episode 11, live from Ledger Open with Zerion. Here we go. So I always like to start from the beginning. And the beginning for you was at Google. You were interning there as a software engineer back in 2016. That's when you founded Zerion. Most people, when they're interns, they don't found companies. And in 2016, there was no DeFi, DeFi was just super small. How did Zerion come to life, and what was kind of the initial idea of the project?
Right. I think Zerion just started on pure enthusiasm and love for the idea of Ethereum and the world computer. So that is essentially what was driving us, like the three co-founders, in the first many years, and still I guess drives us. So we just got really excited, and we started building stuff, whatever we could build, whatever was interesting, useful. We just started building that, and we've done all the kind of things. We actually built one of the first things we built was blackjack, purely based on Ethereum. So, imagine that. For every move, you would need to wait for 20 seconds. But you can actually move the cards and stuff, and it works through the smart contract. So this is how it all started for us, and eventually.
Zerion was initially a blackjack game?
It wasn't Zerion. It was actually called
the first thing you did together.
Yeah, the first thing we did together. We were called Ethereum Lab.
Okay.
That was the first name of when we got together, and we've been building mainly smart contracts for ourselves, for the people, experimenting. That was the origins of that. So I think the official Zerion timeline would be from the kind of end of 2018, and before it was a lot of different projects that we were running. Yeah.
So how would you explain Zerion to the folks who might not know anything about it, and who might have a very, I wouldn't say a very beginner understanding of what DeFi is all about?
Right. So for that, I usually go with an analogy of any kind of brokerage service. So many people know Robinhood. There are different versions in every country, like Revolut. In Russia, there's Tinkoff. There are all these neobanks that allow you to, apart from just making transactions, they allow you to invest in things, and sometimes even in crypto. But what I say is that we now have this decentralized finance, and you need an interface to essentially make operations, transactions there. Buy stuff, sell stuff, send money to friends, etc. So that's what Zerion is in the essence. But obviously, that's just a tipping point of the whole concept, I think, and where it's going.
So, what are Zerion's main functionalities? We're talking about an interface that allows you to access all of these different decentralized finance, products or protocols.
Yeah.
And what are the functionalities in terms of accessibility?
Right. So I think it's useful just to kind of like take a look at the history of an evolution of Zerion before we go into that. So when we first kind of learned about DeFi, we were already building a product that would allow you to automatically discover all the tokens across the blockchain. So, people used to use spreadsheets for tracking portfolios, and we were like, this is not how it should be, and let's just build something that would automatically find all of these different tokens. So we were building and working on that, and then Maker was created, and then Compound was created, and Uniswap, and we were like, okay, this is getting interesting. So we were like building the system that works only with ERC, like plain ERC20 tokens. And now people are inventing new things like CDPs, LP positions. Like these are new tokens. It's very hard to understand, and especially hard to understand for like a new user. So we've started building in like all of these use cases inside. So we've realized that in order to do like a proper portfolio tracking tool, and especially to make transactions, we gotta build a system that is flexible and agile in a way to support all of the new things that are coming up within the space. And I think use cases for Zerion and Zerion users were changing with the evolution of the space itself. So when it started, everyone was like crazy about, oh, now I can like borrow like stable coins with my crypto holdings. So that was like a big narrative in beginning of 2019, and then it all went to compounds and like Aave. So people were like, oh, actually I can earn more yield on my stables than I can in my Bank of America. So that was the next narrative. And then we had, this is like where it was leading all to the bull market, and essentially now it's a lot about trading and like a lot of the big part of 2020 and first half, I guess, like of 2021 was a lot about trading, and now NFTs. And so use cases changed. We support we act as a marketplace of sorts. So if there is anything that is popular and where the users are, we just reflect to what users need, and we support that as part of and grow the features that are available on Zerion.
There are actually two questions that naturally come to mind. First is, how are you able to source all of this information? Because in the web, in the world of Web 2, it would have been super hard with the walled gardens. You need, tons of APIs and permissions.
Yeah.
So that's the first question. And the second question is, how do you generate revenue?
Yeah, these are two, very different questions. So the first one, that's what I love about the space, this permissionless access, and which benefits everyone. So Uniswap is like benefiting from the fact that we integrated, and we don't need to ask them in order to actually integrate that. So we actually have this service. It's accessible at roadmap.zerion.io, and there you can vote for stuff that should be integrated. And we just look at that and see what people are essentially voting for to be integrated. So that's how we prioritize a bunch of these integrations. But obviously there's some internal magic and predictions for the future. What is it that is going to be the next thing? So that is also a part of that. On the second question on the revenue, so the only way Zerion currently makes money is through positive slippage. And this is like something invented by 1inch. It can be even thought as like the referral, because like this is actually what the aggregators are charging the user, and they just share portions of that with the interface that generated the trade. So that did not, I would say, prove to be a very scalable way of making revenue, and this is not, I think, how we're going to monetize in the future. That's I have no doubt about that. I think the current plans, so we've been actually doing surveys with our users, like what are the things that you're interested in paying for, like okay with paying for, would be happy to pay for, etc. So there are some cool ideas that we're working on right now, and you'll see that in some near future.
Yeah, because basically you are providing a service. Like, I mean, people pay for services, so it does make sense to pay if you make someone's life easier.
Exactly. I think we're looking at this similar how MetaMask and Ledger are looking at this. So both of them have fees integrated within like the features that you're providing, and usually they're actually pretty high. So yeah, we're probably gonna end
We'll
up,
talk about that
yeah,
next time.
Yeah.
All
Sure.
right, and to me personally, Zerion feels like having the best of both worlds. You kind of get the UI and the UX of Web 2, and then the core of the the benefits of a decentralized core of Web 3. How are you thinking about DeFi accessibility in general?
Right. This is actually a big topic for us. So when we started, that's a short derail, but like I'm going to quickly
Sure.
cover that. So
Go ahead.
Back in 2019, when we were just starting out with our first fundraise, and we had very little users. Like I think maybe 1,000 or something, like monthly active users. That was like wild times. So we actually went to the YC hackathon, and we've built this app which was called DeFi with like Y at the end, and it allowed you. So it connected Plaid, which is like an API for banks in the US, and it connected with Compound. So effectively, you could like withdraw money, dollars directly into Compound and start making yield. And it actually worked. Like the prototype that we've built, it worked, and people were like crazy about it. Like the API was 6%, and people were like, whoa, how does this whole thing work? And there are actually quite a few companies that tried to do the same thing, but like we never proceeded with that idea, because we continue to build Zerion. And I think the difference is that Zerion is trying to you remove the complexity, but you don't hide stuff from the user. And this is what we learned. And one of the mistakes we early did in the development of the product is that we tried to, we're calling it like, let's abstract away the complexity and like call stuff that is, something which is actually not, the same thing. You call it savings account, but actually it's a smart contract that holds your positions in Aave. And this is something that was really hard to explain to the new user, and it didn't really make any sense to the experienced one as well. So that is like a dead end, which we found. And since then, we've decided that we're not going to hide stuff. We're going to call the things for what they are on the product side, but still make it work on other things, because there if you looking at MetaMask for example for a new user, there's no way you can figure out all the things at once. So MetaMask is just like putting all of the complexity at your face right away.
And we see all the accidents on Twitter every day.
Exactly, yeah. Versus like even Phantom is just the feature and function is identical, or like almost just a different blockchain, but the experience is like 3 clicks and it just works. So I think that's where we can improve.
Education is a huge component, I think, for the whole space.
True.
I mean, for Ledger as well.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Ledger, for the people who are listening to us, actually, Zerion is available in Ledger Live, so Ledger users can access it from within the security of their Ledger device. How was that collaboration like?
Oh, and just wanted to say here that you can also use iOS app with your Ledger Nano X, which is a lot of people love that.
Yeah.
From the feedback I'm hearing, people really like connect your Nano X with Bluetooth, and it just works and you can swap stuff right from your Ledger.
Yeah.
So that's cool. With Ledger Live, this integration was actually I think Andre, who is here, came up with this idea. And I think it went really well. So first of all, we are getting quite a bit of usage and coming from Ledger. So that's great to begin with. Overall, I think like the Ledger team, I was surprised how supportive the Ledger team was, and really like on top of things. To be honest, I had this impression that like because it's already a pretty big company, I was like, probably they're not gonna care much about this integration, like a particular integration. But they actually did, and I think this is what allowed us to find the ways. There were some challenges that we need to overcome, both like technical and legal, etc. And we were able to solve them, I would say, like very quickly. Yeah,
that's awesome. And you've also added NFTs to Zerion, and I have to tell you, man, that floor button, it's magic, because being able to see the floors of the different NFTs, that's really cool. What was that like, and what other future functionalities are you looking into? Because you mentioned a very important point at the beginning of our conversation is the adaptability of Zerion, and how you're always, adapting to the different things that are happening in the ecosystem.
Right.
So how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, so with the NFT, we have quite a few exciting features in the pipeline, and like to me, I cannot wait to see the stuff that we're rolling out. We'll be rolling out for the NFT support, but it's always like a ton of ideas, but like very little resources, and that is why we cannot do everything at once. But in general, I think we are currently mainly focused on improving the core of Zerion. So essentially, for us, the important bit right now is how do we make sure that Zerion scales up for all the future use cases, such that we don't have to, reinvent the wheel every single time. As I said before, the use cases change quite quickly, and I think Ledger in one of the talks, I forgot who that was, but someone from your team mentioned that essentially you gave up on the support of Compound because like maintenance cost is high, and they change contracts. There are new protocols that you need to support that have higher API, with etc. So we're thinking of ways how do we make it such that it evolves and lives without much of a Zerion involvement. So that's the goal, what we're trying to do.
Okay. It's pretty interesting and ties perfectly into our next segment, which is the last segment of the show. This is Glimpse into the Future. So, in your opinion, and we've been talking about DeFi frictions, but if you had to choose one thing that we needed to solve with DeFi, one of the current frictions, what would you say is the priority in your opinion?
That's a good one. I think, and my answer would be probably totally different if you like months ago. But I think now I would say it's bridges between different blockchains, because I think now a lot of stuff started to actually make sense. So, like you move your money to whatever Polygon or a roll up, and it's actually quite cheap to transact, and there are way more use cases that you can build on the chain that supports that has cheaper transaction costs. So effectively, if we solve the issue of moving quickly from one blockchain to the other without a lot of waiting times, high costs as well, like making it more usable, then essentially Zerion would make even more sense, because right now the multi-chain feature that we've rolled out is kind of like siloed still between different chains. So yes, we were rolling out the bridge interface, but then it kind of still on the hands of the user to decide like what chain I should be using this thing on, versus like it's kind of like on the internet. If you Google something and they just tell you, look, this is available on like this server in Amazon, this one is like on Google.
It's kind of
Cloud.
having a Gmail that could only send emails to Gmail.
Yeah, it's exactly, yeah. Or
and I think in
move your
hindsight it's
Gmail
gonna
to
sound
Yahoo.
so absurd, like 10 years from now.
Yeah, and that this composability just broke because of Ethereum being like one chain. Now we have like way more than that, and we need to, if we set up the bridges the right way, then the user would not really need to think a lot. And you just you start with Ethereum, you make a transaction, goes through 5 different blockchains. Doesn't matter for the user, ends up in some blockchain, but still accessible with their private key. I think that's going to be the beauty of it, and this is when it's going to make sense.
Okay, interesting. And do you think like interoperability protocols have a role to play in that when you think about I don't know, Polkadot or Cosmos?
I'm convinced that EVM is here to stay. I'm happy to be challenged on this opinion, but effectively I view that I'm not sure if like Ethereum is I think that there will be more chains like Ethereum that are going to be very valid and used for their use cases. But I'm not sure whether it's easy to beat the EVM, the network effect of the EVM, just because once you build something that is compilable into like the EVM stack, you can deploy it on whatever chain. And vice versa, like if you are a company thinking of launching a new protocol, if you don't do the EVM compatibility, then you're screwed, because like no one else will be. You need to attract developers to like build the same thing all over again. And the alternative is that you just take the EVM compatibility and you invite Aave, Compound, they just deploy the same thing. It's zero cost to them. So that's why I'm convinced that EVMs are here to stay, and Polkadot and Cosmos, they actually have some bar chains that are EVM compatible for the same reason. I think these are going to get usage.
Okay.
Same with like Near, for example. So Near has like this new Aurora, which is like EVM compatible as well, and Solana has EVM compatible, thing on it. So, yeah, I think
Makes
this
sense.
is how it's gonna
Makes
evolve.
sense. So let's switch back to Zerion. Where do you see Zerion 5 years from now?
Yeah, good question. Space is changing so quickly. Like 2 years ago, we were like just starting out. But yeah, 5 years from now, I think I would want to see something that is first of all goes beyond the idea of Robinhood for DeFi. I think it's kind of like Robinhood for DeFi is very limiting. Like the stuff that the stocks that you trade on Robinhood is very like it's a one simple thing. But DeFi and the Web3 is going to be more than that, and we already see that with all the play to earn stuff, the NFT stuff, how all of these is combined. It's just way more interesting. So I'm excited for the space to outgrow this like short mindedness in a way of like just being finance or like about replacing traditional finance and let's just go beyond that. And I really want Zerion to be the place, the wallet that people use daily to make that happen. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to always like spend time in the Zerion UI, but wherever you go to make transactions on a daily basis, that's where I want to see Zerion in like 5 years.
And you gave a few hints about that during your talk. So there's the browser extension that everyone was talking about. There's the wallet. Could you maybe speak more to that and how it ties into your vision about the future of Zerion in general?
Yeah, I think that's fairly straightforward from like the strategy that we've been taking so far. So we always wanted to stay away from like very specific use cases. So we want to build a thing that is useful no matter what is popular of sorts like on the market. And wallet is this thing. It was really hard before to monetize the wallet. And I think Ledger is a good example of a company that understands that really well. So now I guess like also apart from hardware wallets, I'm making a small remark. Hard to monetize if you're not selling a hardware wallet. The wallet stuff and the extension, it's all about the same thing. It's about where you keep your private key, and we just feel like this is the core thing. Like wallet is this important thing, but it lacks without other things. It really lacks usefulness. Like all the previous types of wallets, I don't know, like Trust Wallet, for example, was not meant for this new Web3 era. It was meant for storing coins on it. And MetaMask is like the intermediary step, I think, in this journey. So MetaMask is doing well for connecting to external dApps, but it's not really working well with understanding the transactions and value and tokens, everything that you have connected to your wallet. So in my view, that the proper wallet experience, and this is why actually for us, it's so easy to just like, let's just add the private key storage to the things that we already have, versus some other companies, they go the other way. They start with the wallet and start adding stuff that Zerion wants, and MetaMask is going that route too. So I think it's about connecting to other dApps and being able, just like with your credit card, use it everywhere. Second is being able to understand all the balances and like transactions and make it, Web3 ready in a way. And last thing is about security. So that's these are the 3 pillars, I think.
Okay. And what about the token?
The token is cool. Tokens are first of all, it's like the only marketing thing that works within the space, and companies that don't do them are obviously missing out. And it actually creates the network and mechanics that allow for way more participation and engagement. And rewarding users. So we're obviously from like the Web3 narrative, and we love the idea of tokens. It was really hard for us to imagine how that would look like with what we are doing, but I think the pieces are coming together.
Transition,
yeah, that's somewhat,
to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it will come all together, and we're constantly thinking about that.
I'm sure it will. So what would need to happen for you to consider in the future that DeFi has been a success?
I think that's fairly obvious because if everyone is using DeFi without really knowing that they're using DeFi, I mean, actually, no. Let's say that everyone is using DeFi and they know that there's DeFi under the hood. I think that's
It doesn't feel like DeFi.
But no, it just feels good. So it doesn't feel clunky or whatever, broken. So it feels great, actually better than what they've used to. And at the same time, they know that they're using, blockchain or at least like Web3 under the hood.
Well, that's kind of the perfect way to end it. Thanks a lot for taking the time.
Thank you,
Absolute
Mo.
pleasure.
Have a good one.
That's it. This was another edition of On the Ledger, live from Ledger Open with Zerion. If you've enjoyed the conversation, hit that subscribe button and keep an eye out, cause we're not done yet. This was On the Ledger from Paris with your host Moel Sayed. Till next time, take care. Au revoir. This content is provided for informational purposes only and is the sole expression of our opinion and should not be relied upon as legal, business, investment, or tax advice. Do your own research. Any loss or profit is your sole responsibility. Stay safe.